developer has in mind with the use of this parcel and the architecture. We had a presentation by Don Westfall, and we know Don's history in the township, and certainly he's somebody we have a comfort level, understands what Oakland Township is. It's not like some guy who comes over from Grand Rapids once a month. Oh. Did I say that out loud? I didn't mean you, Larry. I didn't mean you, Larry. So the question on the table is, the applicants propose something that, in his opinion, is consistent with the character of Oakland Township, and in particular, that area where he's done much of the prior development. Believe him or not believe him? Agree with the proposal or not?
Don't believe him. You got the hooks. This is PRO. This is different. This is a subdivision by right. You'd have none of those hooks. They could be the architectural controls out the window, landscaping and all those green belts out the window. All those homes lined up against Adams Road and Dutton Road. That's by right. The PRO has the hooks. Don't trust me. Trust your document and enforce it.
That actually
put me to the screws.
That's a great point that doesn't necessarily work well in the applicant's favor, but I suppose it bolsters what he's supporting his own statement with that, because yes, he's right. If he were developing a subdivision of single-family homes, he'd have a lot more latitude in terms of what he wants to do with it, and I suppose would have latitude to completely change the character of the township, whether it was him or somebody else developing the parcel, that parcel. To a certain extent, we would have much less control than we have with this mechanism. Now, if it was a PUD at some level, but this is a PRO, and it gives us a great level of control, architecturally and otherwise, and we can hold the speed to the fire. If we recommend, and by the way, our only task with this application at this point is to make a recommendation to the Township Board on whether conceptually we buy into this. We haven't seen the detailed plans, and we won't see them for a while. But conceptually, do we buy into this? Now, he is bound by those things in that conceptual, when those become covenants initially. The question about 55 and over age restricted, all these things become part and parcel of it. It's not just, we're not just saying, oh, you want to put a retirement community on 41 acres at Dutton and Adams. That's not what we're doing here. We're looking at the whole thing from a conceptual level. Now, how do you feel about it? It's got the teeth in it as a PRO.
And furthermore, just to add to the point, I think the applicant has helped us out a bit here, in explicitly putting the desire for this kind of community, meaning assisted living, independent living for seniors, into the master plan. We could not have at the same time assumed that there would be no change to the character of Oakland Township, because nothing like that exists in Oakland Township today. So our master plan does not force us to approve only things that do not change the township.
That's correct.
We foresaw this as a use. We have a proposal before us that seems to fulfill a lot of what we had in mind in the master plan. So to say that it does or does not change the character of the township is to put us at great pains to define character. And we're just not going to succeed in that. It will be a change to the township, but it'll be a change consistent with our master plan, and thanks to the developer's proposal, consistent with the quality standards we've learned to expect in this kind of developments in this area.
Okay, so those are arguments for, yes, it does maintain character because of what we see in the proposal, because of teeth in the PRO. But let's explore the other side of that. How does this not maintain the nebulously defined character of the township. Are woodlands retained or eliminated on this parcel with this development?
Yes.
Yes,
there
a
are.
lot of them,
There's going to be a significant reduction in the trees, right?
yes.
But the applicant still has the obligation, ordinance 60 still applies, right?
Still applies.
So we still have the the applicant still has the obligation, we have the protection of ordinance 60, which says that if I recall, any tree at a 3-foot height having a 3-inch diameter, 6-inch diameter at a 3-foot height, is that right?
No, they don't height, 6-inch diameter.
6-inch diameter.
Has to be replaced.
Has to be accounted for, either left alone, replaced, or they could contribute a value to a tree fund, which the township has used to get some of the parkland we have from previous developments, or move it, but keep it on the property.
And added to that, in a single-family development, the only trees that are counted with ordinance 60 are those within the public right-of-way which are removed.
Not on the individual lots.
Not on the individual lots. As opposed to this project, it behooves the developer to maneuver and place buildings and changes around those larger stands of significant trees to reduce the number of tree replacements he has to make, because everything counts.
Everything counts.
On this, not just the public, not just the roadways, where buildings and structures and everything go. So in essence, what he's doing has a greater impact on preserving and enhancing the environment versus a single-family subdivision.
If it's a single-family subdivision, he may get away with having fewer trees on that parcel than you'd have today on this proposal, not more than you have on this proposal, because he has a greater obligation and a greater incentive to not mess with more trees than he absolutely has to.
Right.
Whereas we've seen developers, not necessarily this one in the past, that have come through and you see a cornfield and you see a stand of trees in that cornfield and it's kind of in the way and so they anyway but in this proposal that we have before us, the developer has stayed away from, to a significant extent, the large stands of trees around the perimeter of the parcel to the north and to the west, right? The north and the west is where this parcel has neighboring homes and subdivisions. So it creates a buffer between those homes and this parcel. The developer has not only kept, but offered to improve the berming that is along the view sheds. So another natural feature that is being protected under this proposal is the view shed on Adams and the view shed on Dutton, with the berm and with additional landscaping on top. If the developer, because this is being proposed as it is and has a greater obligation under the tree ordinance than the developer would have in a single-family home subdivision, would that also not contribute to the more limiting and restricted element, the test that has to be measured? I think it does. Anybody concur or disagree with that?
I think a little more explicitly that we have an objective measurement of open space for a single-family development.
Excellent point.
So, rather than just talking about the trees and so forth, would this plan promise more open space than a single-family residential development would be required to provide? And I think Mr. Martiria said in presentations that the amount of open space that's being preserved is 40%.
More than
About
40%.
17.5 acres.
Okay.
We have a chart of what the open space is under the single-family plan. Could you read that off, Jennifer, please?
Welcome Ridge would be 45.88%, and RM would be 11.35% open space.
So you'd be required 11.35%, and instead they proposed 45%.
Yes.
More strictly limited.
Yes.
Is your statement.
Right, and I'm glad we got to that because I think it's very important to determine the eligibility, especially since our net acreage has gotten.
I agree with you, but it's tricky to be
Could you write something past the page? It's a very important point.
I've got it all here somewhere, but,
And it's what, Jennifer?
From October 19th, page 2,
Page 2.
it's under tab 1.
I think the other elements of that table are also worth noting. Under high-density conservation, which is master plan recommended, the percentage of open space is 10%. The RM test plan, which Jennifer read there, was 11.35, a little bit more. The MRD test plan is 24.2. What Blossom Ridge has proposed before us is 45.88. So we have a preservation of open space that is more than 4 times what would be required if this were developed as zoned, right? Well, as a proposed underlying zoning. 4 times the open space. The improvement of the berms and the landscaping don't make the view shed any less of a view shed than it is now. I think we've seen a presentation where the shortening of that building along Adams makes it, it's not going to be invisible, it's still a building, right? But I think we're long past the characterization that it is somebody's putting the Royal Park Hotel on Adams and Dutton, right? That's a gross misrepresentation of what this is. Because I can see the Royal Park Hotel from a long distance, and there isn't so much as a bump in the sidewalk in front of that thing. We're talking about a huge berm with some landscaping on top of it to preserve the view shed on this. Mr. Westfall.
I don't want to complicate it, but I just want to say that prior to, in ample time for review before the next planning commission meeting, we plan on making some changes to the northeast corner of this parcel, closest to Adams Road, that would be the north portion of the parcel, to move those duplex units further away from Adams Road and to increase the amount of buffer along there relative to some concerns that we've heard from neighbors and that. So We will be doing that and submitting it prior to